Reprezentantul permanent al Federației Ruse la Organizația Națiunilor Unite, Vasili Nebenzia, expune poziția Moscovei privind securitatea din Caucazul de Sud, relația Georgiei cu Alianța Nord-Atlantică și stabilitatea economică a țării sale în fața sancțiunilor internaționale. Vă invităm să vă abonați, să distribuiți această analiză și să susțineți demersul jurnalistic asigurat de echipa Jurnal Info.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. We know that our Western colleagues in the Security Council have scheduled immediate stakeout in connection with the events in Tsinval in August 2008. Before they will try to impose on you the Western interpretation of those events, we would like to provide you with an objective assessment. Our Western colleagues persist in requesting discussions of an issue that has nothing to do with the Security Council's mandate and brings no added value to its work. In August 2008, the residents of Tsinval were attacked by the Georgian military of the madman Saakashvili regime. An armed assault against South Ossetia cynically violated an international agreements on the peaceful settlement of the conflict between Georgia and South Ossetia. The sleeping city of Tsinval came under massive artillery fire, after which units of the Georgian Army's ground forces and special forces of the Georgian Interior Ministry entered the city. At the same time, an attack was launched against the positions of the Russian peacekeepers. These criminal acts resulted in numerous casualties among the residents of South Ossetia and Russian military personnel. The unprovoked and carefully planned nature of the Georgian aggression was later officially confirmed in the report of the independent international fact-finding mission on the conflict in Georgia, established under the auspices of the European Union and headed by a Swiss diplomat, Heidi Talevini. Recently, a domestic political scandal erupted in Georgia following a statement by former Defense Minister Georgi Boramidze, who was an associate of Mr. Saakashvili and by no means a dove of peace. He spoke about war crimes committed by the Georgian side during the conflict in Abkhazia in the early 90s, saying that the Georgians took no prisoners. Given the continued direct threats to the lives of Russian citizens in South Ossetia, the Russian leadership, acting in accordance with Article 51 of the UN Charter, decided to launch an operation to compel the Georgian side to make peace. This also saved the South Ossetian people from being eliminated. Having these same objectives in mind, our country recognized the independence of Abkhazia and South Ossetia on August 26, 2008. This is fully in line with the aspirations of their peoples, and Russia's cooperation with Abkhazia and South Ossetia serves as a stabilizing factor in the South Caucasus. In October 2008, a new negotiating format was launched. That is the Geneva International Discussions on Security and Stability in the South Caucasus. This format replaced the mechanisms for the settlement of the Georgian Abkhaz and Georgian South Ossetian conflicts, which collapsed as a result of the aggression. The principal objective of the Geneva International Discussions was to ensure the security of Abkhazia and South Ossetia by maintaining direct dialogue between the two republics and the Georgian side. This format and its mechanisms for interaction between the parties helped in recent years to maintain relative calm along the Georgian, Abkhaz and Georgian South Ossetian borders and to minimize the risks of an escalation of tensions on the ground. What should remain an absolute priority on the agenda of the international discussions of the South Caucasus is the conclusion of a legally binding agreement on the non-use of force between Tbilisi, Sukhum and Tskhinval, as well as the launch of the process of border delimitation, followed by demarcation. This is imperative. Without resolving these practical issues, it will be impossible to ensure lasting peace and stability in the South Caucasus. At the same time, we regret to note that these remain factors affecting the Geneva, there remain factors affecting the Geneva negotiating process and posing a genuine threat to security in the entire South Caucasus region. One such factor is the confrontational course pursued by the Georgian side, which seeks to use the platforms of various international organizations to discredit Russia and isolate Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The United Nations is no exception. This is also evidenced by the fact that every year Georgia introduces a highly politicized General Assembly resolution on internally displaced persons and refugees, which is considered without the participation of representatives of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Nor can we accept our colleagues' hypocritical statements about human rights in the region. It is precisely due to Western sanctions that the residents of Abkhazia and South Ossetia find themselves isolated. We would also like to warn some of our colleagues against advancing a distinctive agenda on the Georgian track. Attempts by the EU to interfere in the country's domestic political situation, as well as to drag Tbilisi into NATO, will not lead to anything good. Georgia's current pragmatic leadership is well aware of this. Russia is guided by the interests of preserving and strengthening security in the region. We stand ready to continue engaging with those who care about the fate of the South Caucasus. We are also prepared to provide comprehensive assistance in promoting dialogue between Tbilisi, Sukhum, and Skhinval, with a view of establishing lasting peace and resolving the problems in the region they all share. Thank you.
When you ask questions, use the microphone, please, and after you will pass it to anyone else. Yeah, thank you. Let's start with you.
Do you want to go first? Okay, Ambassador, thank you. I have a little bit broader question, but it relates to what you're talking about, I think. The purpose of the Security Council when it was set up, as you well know better than anyone, was the maintenance of international peace and security. That's the Council's job, as you well know. My question is, the Council has come under a lot of criticism, especially in recent years, of being deadlocked, and that great powers are using the Council in various different ways. Do you see it that way, and do you see this, what you're bringing up today, as an example of this?
We discussed this issue many times over, and I think that the deadlock you referred to in the Security Council is the reflection and a derivative of the geopolitics that we are facing today. This is one of the issues which is not in agreement by the Council, some of the Western Council members and us, but this issue was never a part of the Security Council agenda. That's why we think that bringing it to the Council, even in the form of the AOB, as our colleagues wanted today, is excessive and will not lead to the solution, because the format in which the solution can be found exists. What is lacking is the political will by some of the parties.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. Of course, one of the peace and security issues that the Council has not addressed is the ongoing war in Iran. And I wonder if Russia bilaterally, which has relations with Iran, is putting any pressure on the Iranian government to try and resume negotiations and bring that war to an end.
Russia, as a matter of principle, does not put any pressure on anybody. be it Iran or any other country. Iran is a sovereign nation. They decide for themselves. We discussed that issue too, and we know that the genesis of the conflict is not in what Iran did or what it didn't do, but at the reckless and unprovoked aggression that U.S. waged against Iran. And I don't think that it is Iran that withdrew from fulfilling the agreements that were reached between U.S. and Iran with the help of the mediators. So I don't think that we have to blame Iran for this, but the issue is being discussed in the Council. It didn't happen this year, but I'm sure we will address it. We will address it in the course of the month.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. This is Namo Abdullah with Rudao. One question. Yesterday, your U.S. colleague at the Security Council accused the President of the General Assembly of overstepping her authority. I just wonder if you share her criticism when it comes to the selection of the Secretary General, and more broadly, what do you think of the criticism that the selection process lacks transparency and there should be a greater role for the UN General Assembly to play in this? Thank you.
I share what my U.S. colleague said yesterday. We didn't make that outspoken statement, but we were concerned with the role the PGA was trying to impose upon herself and interfere into the process of selection of the candidate of the Secretary General, which is clearly defined both by the Charter and the recent resolution that was adopted by the General Assembly, by consensus by the way, which stipulates how the Secretary General should be, he or she should be selected. You talk about transparency. We saw transparency when we saw the results of the first straw poll leaked in about an hour. I think that was a reflection of transparency. That happens every time, but I mean the speed with which it was done last time was really puzzling. But you know, this is not the case where you need transparency. This is a very delicate process, and it is defined both by the straw polls, but later by the separate voting. And if you tell now transparently who one side or another is supporting, you will hurt perhaps the chances of some of the candidates. So it should be quite discreet, like it used to be all the time in the history of the United Nations.
Hi, this is Dulcie Leinbach from Past Blue. Pursuant to that topic, so do you feel that General Assembly dialogue with candidates is necessary or not an imperative?
The dialogue is important because it allows membership to understand what one or another candidate is up to, what his or her program is, and receive a broad understanding who we are selecting. The question is that all of the candidates, when speaking to the General Assembly, I would not say they are vague, but I mean they will be delivering messages that would heed most of the that would be acceptable and receptive by most of the membership. That we will not be able to really distinguish exactly how she or he will conduct his or her business when selected and elected Secretary General. But the dialogues are important, I agree. And that is provided by the resolution as well.
So the Security Council dialogues, the private dialogues you're having, are they more useful than the General Assembly dialogues?
Well, they are both useful, and we indeed had dialogues with all the candidates, today with the two, Ambassador Tuno and Yvonne Baki. They are important. They help you to understand the position of candidates, and also to assess the capacity and ability of this or another candidate to be a Secretary General. I do not compare these dialogues and range them by their importance. They are both formats are important.
Continuing with the theme of candidates, how do you think can the UN be the platform for Ukraine crisis resolution under new?
Could you please come back to can the candidate?
Yeah. So now there is a process of choosing the new Secretary General, and do you think that under new Secretary General, given his neutrality, the UN can be the platform for Ukraine crisis resolution?
Well, of course, a lot depends on the Secretary General, on his personality, her personality, on his or her ability to engage. And that is what we stress every time we talk to one or another candidate, that we want more interaction by the new Secretary General with the Security Council, which we were lacking, frankly, especially in recent years with the current one. We would like her or him to be more involved in crisis resolution, but for that, this newly elected Secretary General should be willing to engage in, with perhaps sometimes a threat that he or she might not be successful. But you have to immerse and to jump into the water and try to be helpful. It was like with Kofi Annan, who was bold enough to go to a crisis without being assured that he would be able to resolve it. But he was always ready to step in. And that's what we're expecting from the new Secretary General.
With the latest entries into the Secretary General's race, do you feel that this is going to fundamentally change your outlook as to who should be the next Secretary General? Or, there could be possibilities where we'll get another 2 or 3 people entering. Does that create more of a mess in the Security Council, or does that help?
The last entry was Yvonne Baki. Before that, we don't have any others from the. I mean, if you start from the last and first straw poll, will there be other candidates? I do not exclude it. If, for example, I'm speculating now, if there is a deadlock on any of the candidates that we are seeing today, if nobody of them flies, then I think that we may see other candidates as well.
Thank you, Ambassador Murad Hashim from Al Jazeera Arabic. President Trump yesterday announced a new campaign to isolate Iran's economy and threatened the countries that continue to deal with Iran with consequences that might include Russia. What's the Russian position in this regard?
We've seen so many sanctions and pledges to isolate the Russian economy that we do not pay too much attention to it because we managed to adapt to whatever sanctions they introduced or whatever threats we heard on the way. I think that we will manage. Don't worry about Russia's economy.
Thank you very much. My name is Volodymyr Ilchenko, National News Agency of Ukraine. My question concerns Georgia. And now, on the eve of mass mobilization, which is expected in Russia after your so-called farce elections,
okay.
Thousands and tens of thousands of young Russian men are fleeing to Georgia now. Do you have any comment on that?
You are much more aware of what will happen after the elections than I am. Let's see what will happen after the elections. I wouldn't say tens of thousands of young Russians are fleeing to Georgia. You know what is happening with the mobilization in Ukraine better than anybody else in this environment. So don't worry about mobilization in Russia. I think that it was said many times officially that we don't need massive mobilization at the moment, and it is not planned and expected as far as I know. But let's see what happens after elections and who is right or who is wrong.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. President Trump has said he wants to declare the Strait of Hormuz U.S. territory. What's Russia's position on that one?
I don't want to offend anybody and answer this question, but I mean, President Trump claimed many territories around the world. Today we had a dialogue with the candidates in the Danish mission, and the room was called Greenland. Doesn't remind you anything? He talked about Venezuela, about other parts of the world. I don't know how it can be done in compliance with the international law. But I mean, President Trump is the master of his own words. Let's see how he is planning to implement it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.